24 degrees Celsius here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. Your daily, well, Killer is all dizes of sunshine this morning. I'm Maupe Ogunyusu.
It is a sunny day here in the nation's capital. Good morning and welcome. I'm Kayla Megwa. What a weekend.
What a weekend it was. I mean, where do we start from? Is it from the book launch and of former military head of state, General Abubakar, Abdusalami Abubakar, or is it what is happening on the international scene, or is it the sad news that came in from Katsina State that a former major general, a spokesperson of defense, he died in captivity, and his wife, who was captured alongside him, is yet to be released. Where precisely do we start from? I was just looking at the papers this morning, Kayla, and one of the papers captured it very aptly, looking at Nigerian pilots. It says, Nigeria, one tragedy to the other. But maybe it's not all tragedy. It's just that sometimes tragic stories tend to overshadow whatever positives there are to celebrate. We've been clamoring for years that military heads of state or even leaders that have led Nigeria at one point or another write their biographies. We saw that of General Yakubu Gowon after many years. That biography was eventually written, and then over the weekend we also saw that of General Abdusalami Abubakar, who saw Nigeria transition, or who led the transition of Nigeria into the Fourth Republic. So I think it was very appropriate that his book launch was held a day after we celebrate
Democracy Day.
Yes, after we celebrate Democracy Day. So quite a weekend it was in all respects. Kayla, I know you've been very interested in this happening abroad with President Trump announcing a peace deal with Iran.
Indeed. I mean, it's been a very... I mean, I want to start off with our security first, because, you know, we are at a point where the military has been working. I hate it when people say the military hasn't done anything. That's not true. There have been attacks. In fact, right now, that particular place in Katsina State, there is an operation right now going on there. And that operation is supposed to get rid of all the terrorists in that part of Katsina State. And of course, you know, before then, there's always been, there's one attack after the other that the military has done. They've done really well. But it's like plane crashes, isn't it? We hardly hear about the safe landings. We always hear when a plane crashes, which is the reason why we must do everything for planes not to crash. So kudos to the military for the work that they're doing. But the death of General Rabi really has put a dent, really, in the perception of the work the military is doing in the war against terror. How the military wants to handle that is something that they have to think about. They have to think about how we are looking at them and know that we are standing by the military no matter what's going on. Back to what you were talking about, which was the Strait of Hormuz. It's one of... It's something that I think we have to wait to see how it unfolds, because, yes, that tweet by President Donald Trump, sending ripples all over, but he loves to send ripples, doesn't he? So sending ripples everywhere. So the war is over, unconditional removal of soldiers from the Strait of Hormuz, no more levies being paid over there. So this is a great thing. Is the final document, I think, will be signed in Switzerland on the 19th. Well, like Mark said when we were talking about this earlier in the day, Mark said in Donald Trump's world, a lot can happen between Monday and Thursday. And we've seen situations where we expected something to happen and a lot of things changed. So, but, you know, the question really is, okay, we've been hearing the Nigerian government talk about how there's a lot of the problems we're facing, well, some of the problems we're facing economically here is as a result of this situation between the United States, Iran, and Israel. So the question is, so what does that mean? Are we going to see a reduction in the price of petrol, for instance? Is there going to be some kind of uplifting? Are we going to see things get better? One of the things that happens in Nigeria, Mark, is that I never see the price of things go down. No matter what happens. They'll say this caused it, then the thing ends and the price is still up. We saw that with COVID.
Yeah.
So we're here again, and we're wondering, what does this mean? But I think, you know, we should... I think the economic experts right now will be sharpening their pens and getting ready to explain what this means for our economy here in Nigeria and then, of course, around the world.
I think, Kayla, we should say what this will mean, because we're not yet at that point. Let's not forget that Iran still hasn't said anything concrete about that peace deal. Yes, we do know that negotiations are going on, brokered by some countries in the Middle East. However, you know, we're yet to get a full, final confirmation from the parties involved that indeed this peace deal is going to be. As a matter of fact, from what we hear, that Iran state media is reporting that they haven't yet reached a final decision on the proposed peace deal to end the war between the United States and their country. So
is there a possibility that they might say we're not on board?
Well, if we're to look at all that is currently, well, as I said, it's a long time between Monday and Friday. So we'll just wait patiently and see just, if that peace deal will follow through and what it will mean, eventually for Nigeria, not just Nigeria, but the international economy, because all of the world has been impacted by this war, which was totally unforeseen, So we'll wait and see just how that eventually develops. But let's keep our tabs on the local scene here, Kayla, when you're talking about security. And I think it's very important for us to clarify, because some people had heard over the weekend that the former military spokesperson's wife, that's General Abubakar's wife, was released to the Katsina State authorities. But that has now been clarified to say that no, she has not been released. They're still expecting her. As a matter of fact, generals are now gathering to say, look, there must be an unconditional release of the general's wife. This is really, really heartbreaking. It's a really heartbreaking situation. And I think it's also very important because, Kayla, it's not just the fact that the general was captured. Let's not forget that we still have children. One of the things we heard was that the general was killed by a snake bite. That's what the son of the general did say, because there had been talks about, oh, he was diabetic, he was hypertensive, and couldn't get a hold of his medication while he was with the kidnappers. But then we're getting clarification that, oh, it was because of a snake bite, which is highly probable when you are in the forest with those people. And it just brings to mind what exactly the state of the situation is with the children who have been kidnapped for weeks now in Oyo State. You're thinking, especially in this season, the rainy season that we've entered, and they're deep in the thick forest. What exactly is happening? We've heard the IGP of police say that we shouldn't worry. Very soon they will be released. But very soon is not their release. They've been there for way too long. I mean, when you think about it, it is really, I mean, the president had to acknowledge it in his speech that it is a dampener on what would have been, very happy celebrations of Democracy Day, or maybe at least some sort of celebration, even if they're not happy, of Democracy Day. But, to even call for a celebration at all, any kind, was totally untenable given the circumstances that we currently have on our hands. But let us continue to keep our eyes on the ball and make sure that the security situation, we get a hold of it. We put a handle, get a handle of it. And I think that, this controversial news of the rehabilitation of bandits that were still, is it bandits now or terrorists? Terrorists.
That was, interestingly yesterday, when the story of General Rabi, at least on our station, immediately after came the story of the rehabilitation of 720
terrorists.
Repentant terrorists, this concept that we are still grappling with as a people. And even the president's speech, many people have said there are parts of the president's speech that alluded to the fact that there is the opening for people who are repentant terrorists
to lay down their
arms. But for the Nigerian people, we don't know what that means. So they're retraining them in arts and crafts and how to
vocational
studies. But what does that mean? 720 of them, and this is I think this is 7th or the 8th batch that we've seen back in our communities. Are they being followed? What does this mean?
Are we monitoring them?
Are we monitoring them? Do they sneak out? Do we know if they are still informants? We don't quite know as a people. The military may know, but we don't know. And we don't quite understand the concept of a reformed terrorist. What we did hear, Malcolm, was the fact that a lot of these people who are called reformed are not people who were carrying arms. These are people who were suppliers and people who were forced into this. But that's your information. We don't know that for a fact. All we know is that it looks like you're welcoming our enemies and bringing them back into our communities. So maybe a better communication on how this reformation is supposed to work will be something that we will need. And then maybe get the pulse of the Nigerian people, because I do not see a lot of people supporting the concept of reformed terrorists.
Especially in the communities where these people will live, Kayla, because one of the things that we have heard is that the communities are totally against it. So is there some follow-up being done within the community where these people are released to know that they're actually being welcomed, that this idea sits well with them? Because whilst the whole of Nigeria is looking at the whole situation with with some skepticism, rightly so, given our current situation, the people within the communities where these people are released to are the immediate people who will feel the impact or the effect of, you know, whatever it is that we're releasing. So I think that there needs to be some conversation, some follow-up, some thorough follow-up happening within those communities. But Kayla, quite a lot to look at within our polity today, and we'll be digging our teeth into it, especially with the issue of politics. We'll be starting with that when we come back from this break. Please stay with us.
This party is a party for all Nigerians. They are now, by the decisions that this party has taken, they are flag bearer, they are our flag bearers, and we have no issues with any of them. If I were running, or you yourself were running, and you are given presidential nomination, the advice that you want, has the party not done everything for you? Has the party abused? No.
Let's be sincere to ourselves now.
There was no primary contest. Nothing. And as I said last night, I or the chairman or nobody here demanded or received any money from them before accepting them to the party.
All right, so that was an excerpt of the chairman of the NDC, that's the Nigerian Democratic Congress, Senator Seriake Dixon, talking about his party, or what I say, yeah, his party. When I say his, I don't mean in terms of ownership. I mean in terms of the fact that he belongs to the party. There have been conversations around the NDC, its presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, and of course the primaries which it conducted, which had also raised some controversy. Well, we're going to be dealing with that this morning with Professor Udenta. Udenta was the founding national secretary of the Alliance for Democracy. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. Good morning, Prof.
It's my pleasure to present myself before you, guys, this morning. And to Nigerians who are going to watch our show, I hope you'll be enlightened.
Yeah. Well, just before we get to that particular matter, I wanted to quickly take you up on this one. It was June 12th, on Friday, we celebrated Democracy Day, and there had been calls for expansion of, those being honored by the country for their efforts on June 12th. And yes, the list has been expanded to even include journalists. I mean, quite a number of journalists were included. Yes, I think Arthur Wankwo was also mentioned from the Southeast. Quite a number of Southeastern leaders and even Northern leaders were also mentioned for their role in that struggle. But I did see a particular post which, highlighted the fact that your name was not included in that list. I do not know how this question should make you feel, but I'm just a little curious as to whether you felt slighted by that.
It's a particular subject I would rather not have loved to address, but I'm going to address it, And first and foremost, when you have a vision of a society and you want to be part of that society as a change agent, you don't have at the back of your mind honors and awards and reward system, or even material patronage. It's because you're passionate about something, you're committed to that cause. So when we abandoned our careers, I was a scholar. I was to be vetted as an associate professor in 1997, 98. But I suffered detentions multiple times and abandoned that. So when Abacha died, I didn't even know I was in detention. The last one was with month and a half without one who he mentioned there. And I didn't take my bath for a month. I didn't shave my beard for a month and a half. I was looking almost like a gorilla when I came out. So that's part of your passion. I actually craved detention. I craved, problem. because you needed to have your voice out there defending democracy, civic liberty, and human rights. So you didn't have that at the back of your mind going to get an award. So you see the spirit of awards and honors and recognitions. Yes, it's important. For me, everything has a time. But one's own contribution is not determined by the political construction of the day, or what they call the order of power. A present-day order of power is important, but it's not permanent. It is transient. So what you don't get today, you may get tomorrow if you really crave for it. I don't crave for it. It's important that history recorded, that I played a crucial front role, not a peripheral role. And I dare say I cannot mention 10 Nigerians, from Papa Desanya to Wole Soyinka, 10 that participated in that struggle, that played crucial role without my name being there. But it doesn't matter. It's all part of life, of politics, or the conversations about power and processes of national development.
That's how you've chosen to.
Oh, sure. I'm not in any way disappointed. I'm not in any way worried about it.
Well, that's good to know. I just wanted, that be out there, because oftentimes we talk about democracy Day, and many times I know that there's been a lot of talk around the heroes of democracy. And it's just a pleasure to know that we are always speaking with one right here in our studio.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much
for
a
pleasure.
The work that you did there.
Thank you so much.
But also, people always take that June 12, or at least the approach of it, and maybe the aftermath, as a time to sit and reflect on the state of our democracy, where we currently are, how much progress we've made. Is this really making progress? Was this what we dreamed of? Was this what people like you fought for?
That's what we do, because you see, more now, at the level of the June 12 struggle, that level of contestation between empowered civic spaces, enlightened, elite, national political elite, versus the military, it was actually binary. It was like neat division, us and them, the good guys and the bad guys. It was easy to talk about content of democracy, the content of national renewal, national restructuring, negotiated Nigerian, environment, physical federalism, the kind of stuff that people hear about today. But that was the deepened content about it. What it makes to live in a country with promises and possibilities. What it means to have citizens who are prosperous and happy. What it means to economic development. Now we're dealing more with the form of democracy, not with the content of democracy. That's one area I can reflect on. We're interested more in electoral processes. Oh yes, we got it right. There was a voter's card, a PVC. We have the card reader. We thought it wasn't sufficient. Let's go for the beavers. The beaver is not good enough. Let's go for the IRAN, for the transmission. We are more interested in these processes than in the content of democracy. Not knowing that elections, the best ever elections, can only deliver legalistic government, like legality of government, not legitimacy. It comes with your performance, what you've done, with the money given to you. There's a double tragedy when the elections are fraudulent and the government is not performing. But even when it's not even fraudulent, and you're not performing, it's still illegitimate. Because the poverty increases, anger of the land increases, people's humanity diminished. There's a sense of emptiness and hopelessness. Then election was actually well done. That election is meaningless. So reflect upon June 12th now is 30-something years from June 12th and 27 years from 1999. The sacrifices of these heroes and heroines, are they worth it? In some way, like the president said, we've had these repeated transitions and change of path for 27 years. Military was morally exhausted and institutionally weakened. That's why they don't really bother to come back anymore. So we're happy we have this civil thing going on, without any break. But in terms of...
That's interesting. You call it a civil thing.
It's a civil thing. It's not really a democratic thing.
You're not quite sure what to name it.
Absolutely. I mean, I heard your guests, and I heard you even there, post the guests who left, and the lamentation, the rigor, the depth to which you, even as journalists, are bringing out the pains in the land across all frontiers, whether it is issue of economic development or security and so on. So there is a civil thing on, which is important, but then we need to infuse on that civil thing the proper democratic ethos of empowered citizens who are happy, as June 12 envisaged.
Well, let's quickly now then delve into political parties, because the NDC is our focus this morning. You are currently a supporter of
yes.
You were a founding member of the Alliance for Democracy, that's AD. You haven't quite stated that you are a member of the NDC, but you are a very prominent supporter of the presidential candidate of the NDC. Is he of the NDC or of the presidential candidate?
Of NDC and the presidential candidate, both together.
That is very important to make that distinction.
I can even give you that background.
Okay.
The background is a simple one. His Excellency, Senator Sirika Dixon was my colleague in Alliance for Democracy.
Interesting.
When I was the founding national secretary of the party, he was the chairman of the party in Bayelsa State. I became the legal advisor later after I had moved on. So a very prominent ideologue of the party who honed his skills and tactics in party organization from then. Before then, of course, he was prominent. Many people don't even know it in the Niger Delta struggle at the elite intellectual level. So a combination of that, regional struggle, consciousness, and then an expanded pan-national ideological movement in AD, honed commissioner, reps, senator, governor, and so on.
So you are supporting NDC because you know
that
him.
is very well.
Okay.
I don't understand his mindset.
Now, I have to ask that because there are those who actually support the presidential candidate, but have, well, I say they're withholding something in terms of their full support.
Mine is different.
Yes.
That again, and then of course, Obi and one was so ticket. Seems to me the kind of package, the right package we now have for the country. 2023, there was a weakening of that Obi momentum. I said it even in this studio, several studios. There'll be a massive landfall of Obi and obedient movement. But it may not have the full reach, range, depth, and breadth to actually pronounce total victory. Remember his placeholder was Doinoku. He could have walked, but from the south, searching for somebody in the north, anybody, anyhow. Now there is a prominent, very dominant, charismatic, and populist figure in the north. Embrace that same project. So that project is not getting smaller, it's getting bigger and bigger and stronger. So if you combine this ideological inclination of a party of a new type, that is Excellency Sirika Dixon put that together, and then the combined charismatic force with the obedient movement and Kwakwasiya movement has infused into it, then they have a winning team. That not just for the victory itself, like I said, but another process of election 2027, but some content to that election, something different from what we now have.
All right, so let's talk about that plan for victory for the NDC. Listening to Sirika Dixon, many people have alluded to the fact that there could be some kind of issue going on between the party and the presidential candidate. Well, not the candidate himself, but the followers of the candidate. So I'm talking about the obedience and the Kwakwasiya movement. And of course, it's been going on online. Many people talking about how Sirika Dixon has to be careful. These are the people who, you think you've done something for the candidate, but the truth is that the candidate brought the supporters, and that base is what assures you of the victory that you're looking for. Could you talk to us a little bit about this situation and how the leaders of this group, Sirika Dixon, Peter Obi and Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, should be handling this matter right now? Because it does feel like the followers are saying, listen, we made the NDC popular. If we didn't join your party, nobody would know you existed.
Okay, fine. Let me put it this way. And I want to be a little bit philosophical, but I will not take more than a minute. There's something in Hegelian philosophy from Hegel, from where Marx took his his own ideology, called concrete universality. It's a movement of the general and the particular. The units within the general, when they move and when they combine. Marxism, for example, was a general, it's still a general. Then came Lenin from Russia, about Vladimir Lenin, some decades after. Lenin actually undermined Marx, compromised, not the ontology of Marxism, but its epistemology. That means, in terms of dialectics, I'm with you, but in terms of the way you view the world, you died before Berlin Conference. I saw imperialism. So he corrected Marx. So when Marxism returned back to itself upon the yoking of Leninism, it was no longer the same. That's why I have Marxism-Leninism. One has corrupted the other. So Marx has lost something, Lenin has lost something and gained something to build a new whole. Same with NDC. So when Sirika Dixon founded NDC as a party of a new type, something different, let us build a party, machine, a system, institution. You now have to open the space for the obedience led by P2P and the Kwakwasiya movement led by Kwakwasiya to come in. That dramatic yoking of these two movements to NDC, as puristically envisaged by him, did what? Contaminated the NDC. So he returned back to itself with these two intrusions, not as it was originally. It has to be something different now. So it is that sense of adaptation that the obedience will no longer be the same. Upon they merging with NDC, Kwakwasiya will no longer be the same. After NDC said will not be the same anymore. Any attempt by any of these three axes to remain the way they were before this yoking, this kind of violent cut, the party will suffer more structural institutional damage. But they understand it now. That's why everybody is walking around the clock to say, we have eaten something big. We have to find organic whole out of that. So NDC is going to move on as a party of a new type, now embedded in its core, this raucous, big, boisterous energy of these two movements. But movement don't deliver power. Movement deliver moments of history, of that empower city speaks. Parties deliver power. So the Bidens themselves, but understand too, P2B did not create the Bidens. They created themselves around this vision of governance. So you can't just go to them and say, oh, dissolve this band. No, you must work with them in a careful manner. Don't forget in the early 50s, there's a movement called the Zikist movement. Those who believe in the philosophy of Zik and Sikhism, you know, Kola Balogun, Osita Abuna, and so on and so forth. Zik denounced them.
So that's so you're basically faulting what Mr. Siriaki has been saying.
No, I'm not faulting it. It is that understanding. It is his understanding now that this party created by us, this party of a new type, have incorporated these elements there. They must understand the existence of the party itself. We are there. We are a whole. You're a particular coming to that whole. Yes, we never at the end of the day, not today, tomorrow, remain the way we were before you came in. But you're not going to topple what you met on ground. You must adapt to that, and we build it together as a new form. So in this way, we re-emerge out of this merging of forces, not as it was puristically envisioned before, but as a new form of party, bigger, larger, much more determined to deliver victory 2027.
And that victory really is something that everyone wants that victory, at least in the NDC, everyone wants that victory. But let's talk about its chances, the chances of the NDC. Some people have started talking, the same thing they were saying about the Labour Party in 2023. Oh, look, what's going to happen is that there's going to be another wave. It's going to be another P2B wave, and a lot of people are going to ride on the P2B wave and get into office, and then when they get into office, they're going to decamp. Okay, and then leave everyone holding the ball.
That's the difference now. That is why this is talking the way it's talking.
How is that going to be different? Because Labour was saying the same thing Siriaki was saying.
Let us put it this way. Labour hasn't got that kind of content in terms except the name. I don't want to impede on the integrity of those who led Labour Party. I don't know of any distinguished, not in terms of Labour activism or some level of civil speaks agitation, but power and getting it. A two-term governor, two-term senator, two-term House of Reps member. The chairman of the party itself, Senator Moses, a former senator, within the ranks. So there's a content to NDC as a political force. In Labour, there was no content. So that's why the invasion of obedient movement overwhelmed it entirely. It cannot overwhelm this. This was already on ground. So that's why the party is building its ranks there as an institution. So by the time we get to 2027, whether you are from the Biden side, from the CS side, original content of NDC, you understand there's no longer a wave taking you somewhere temporarily in a transit form to withdraw. No, you are now part of a party with a new brand. And I'm sure the next 5-6 months, the party will have unfolded so many innovative ideas and build institutions there that people say, my God, this party is uniquely different. So it will not be like win election, turn around, take over, go to another party if it suits you. That's number one. Number two, the chances. You talked about the chances, not just the behavior of the winners. I did say not here, in some other platforms in the past. Second-term elections are for the president. It's not for the opposition. If I'm in position, I don't need to offer anybody contra anything, but I win. The president must run on his record. So Obi and Kwangwaso don't need to run on any record. They can run on their promise to the country. This is why they run a record. And second-term presidents, check me from Obama. So go ahead, you even won the second time. The Jonathan who lost the second time always do badly. They come with force of promise. Obama, yes, we can. 4 years, they say this man is like other politicians. Nothing different. He goes down. Jonathan, shoeless. Remember, breath of fresh air. Second time, he lost. Because they said, this man is like the rest of them. Buhari did well in 2015. People thought Atiku won 2019. Bola Ahmed Tinubu president will do worse in 2027 than he did in 2023. You are here on the stage talking about security. It has collapsed. Economy has basically tanked. And he's talking to yourself, oil prices may never come down. So the problem is going to multiply for him. So if he scored 8.something million votes last time around, he may not get up to 5 this time if his elections are properly done. Obi has 6 without any northern content, the upper north. Now there's a Kwangwaso there. And others may bleeding from other parties in alliance down the line there. So he's looking at 5, 7, 8 more million votes added to what he has already. So on paper, theoretically, anecdotally, he's going to be the president in the next election. Not that whatsoever. But then the party needs to work hard and ensure that you protect the mandate. You get agents there for every voting percent who are equipped with the right tools, with the smartphone, with the intellect, with the contact, with the determination of heart.
Do you
to deliver that.
Do you think that the party has shown that it truly is conducting itself differently? Because you do know that there has been quite an uproar in the aftermath of its primaries.
Expectedly.
Expectedly?
Oh, yes, sure. Politics is not sexy. It's not like aesthetics. It's not like me in civil society. Let me give you an example. Fighting for that deco, I never had a single bad press. Self Alliance for Democracy, I was being attacked and assailed every day. Chief Olufalaye, who became a candidate, one day came with a pin and pinched him and said, "Why are you screaming? You're not ready for this job." Attacks are not in politics. Confusion, sometimes disorder. But you must build a system where order will emerge out of disorder. Almost a party was born. A party grew in leaps and bounds, and a party went for primaries. Not ordinary shabby consensus. Either they spend that promise to be 100% okay, will not be okay. So this disorder you find here and there is the energy of the party.
So those who criticize and say that the party is not showing itself to be any different from the others.
Why do you think I'm here?
Don't have a point.
Why do you think I'm here? I have the experience, I have the depth, I have the history. So as I said, enlighten and educate. I can't talk to every party member, no matter whatever they earn their millions. But this program is a program where you say, listen, take it easy, take a deep breath. It happens in politics. You'll be happy that thousands poured out. You're happy that in many states where you did these primaries there, they were overwhelmed. But the money to do it, it can't be 100% okay. What you do now is that you have a time of reflection to rebuild the bridges, okay? Do what? Reconciliation, healing, and it is ongoing. At that time, the moment this is done, you pivot into general election mode. How do you hone in a message?
Of the corrupt elements that they mentioned, people stated that there were people who carried out corrupt practices in these primaries. Are those elements going to be fished out? Is that investigation going on?
Let me tell you, anybody in politics runs with the mouth. That's what happens in politics. I was part of the screening. And the screening was not only for members of NDC. The leaders of the party said, we have 3 categories of people who will participate in the screening: party leaders, thoroughbred professionals, and technocrats and intellectuals like us, and then media people who doesn't have to necessarily members of the party. The party made it clear. It's a young party. It's not like APC that has grabbed and gorged so much. I said to you on stage here that the flatness and obesity of APC will soon unravel. And this is beginning to. This is a party without any other financial muscles to say, you have here the expression of interest fee. The party prescribed officially, said, if you want to support the growth and development of the party at a cross level, state assembly, reps, senate, governorship, this is what we expect you to voluntarily contribute if you want to. We don't hold it against you. It doesn't have to determine whether you win or you don't win the primary. And many freely and willingly contributed to a dedicated account generated by the party, signed only by party leaders. But somebody somewhere could say, oh my God, how did they do this? And so that's not the way it is. If I was not there on ground, watching and witnessing this, I will not speak. But because I was part of that process, I'm here, I want to lay it to rest. Nobody was corrupt. Nobody took anybody's money. People voluntarily
You can vouch for people like that?
Because I know that to be what happened.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Are you now a member of the NDC?
I said, I am closely aligned to the NDC, but not a party.
Your party has a presidential candidate. Your own party, Alliance for Democracy, would you have a presidential candidate?
No, Alliance for Democracy is defunct.
Okay, so it's defunct.
It's defunct 20 years. I ceased having a kind of a party 25 years ago.
Yes.
What happened that Alliance for Democracy self-imploded. Internal contradictions and external pressure. So Tinubu took a bunch of the members of the party and formed what is called AC.
AC.
That's the one Atiku used in 2007. Later they now merged with something again to ACN. Finally, 2013 or thereabout, they now reincarnated as APC.
Well, Prof, every time we speak with you, it always feels like I'm in class. There's so many things to learn from you. But thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. I do not know if a lot of people accept your permutations for how the elections will go in 2027, but
we have a long way to go.
Exactly. Thank you so much for being a part of our conversation this morning, Professor Udenta, the founder National Secretary of the Alliance for Democracy. Thank you once more.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's where we'll wrap up this particular segment. We'll be back shortly to talk about Nigeria's education sector, especially with publishing. There is some controversy going on there with the Nigerian Publishers Association, and the Federal Ministry of Education through the Nigerian Educational Research and Development Council. We'll be talking about what that matter is when we come back from this break. Please stay with us. Well, Mr. Lukman Dauda joins us now. He's the president of the Nigeria Publishers Association, and we're going to be talking about this controversy that exists between Nigerian Publishers Association and the Nigerian Educational Research and Development Council, the NERDC, over a new policy direction which was announced with regards to standardizing textbook selection and improving learning outcomes across Nigeria. Now, we understand that the central feature of the policy is the ranking of educational textbooks intended for use in basic and secondary schools across Nigeria. We understand also that the Nigerian Publishers Association have rejected this particular policy, calling for its immediate withdrawal. The conversation we are having with Mr. Dauda Lukman is why. Good morning, Mr. Lukman. It's good to see you in our studios in Lagos. I think that this is a real big issue. Your press statement was quite detailed in terms of the why, but help Nigerians understand. Is it that you're hoping that some people will be producing substandard textbooks, or you're only worried about the publishers, some publishers who might not be producing what will be considered standardized, surviving?
Yeah, good morning. It's a pleasure to have me on your studio in Lagos. Yeah, the issue we have has nothing to do with any fear about any publisher producing low standard books. No, we as publishers, we have always produced, books that have met the standards prescribed by the NRDC over the years. The challenge we have is the approach about the policy, the timing, the cost implication, and even the economic implication of the whole policy. There's no problem about trying to reform education and ensuring that books meet the prescribed standard by either the Federal Ministry of Education or the NRDC. The NRDC has always been saddled with that particular task of ensuring that all books written conform with the contents of the curriculum produced or developed by NRDC. And I can assure you that over the years, publishers have always met these standards. And that is why, over the years, schools have continued to use our members' books and have been using, their students have been using that to pass various exams, both locally and internationally. So we are not against any reform, but we are against the approach that the Federal Ministry of Education has adopted in this particular policy. So many things have issues on the policy, and then we have engaged the NRDC, who was assigned to meet with us by the Federal Ministry of Education. We have made several attempts to meet the Federal Ministry of Education itself, the minister or the permanent secretary, any director that is involved in the development or the curriculum aspect of education in Nigeria at the ministry level. None of that has ever materialized. But we are lucky to have met the NRDC several times to engage on this particular issue. But rather than listening to us, it appears that the policy appeared to have been concluded even before any engagement was being talked about. So that is the issue. It has nothing to do with our fear about any publisher producing lower standard books. No, we have always that quality books with quality contents.
Well, when I raised that particular issue, I looked at the details of your press conference and what you had enumerated as the objections that you have with it. Some of the challenges you think could confront this new policy of government. And you talked about, of course, how you've sought audience and eventually was able to meet with the NERDC, as you have now admitted. But some of your objections was that this new policy will encourage bias. It creates winners and losers, and the consequence is huge unemployment. You gave a little more detail to that particular issue or that particular point. You say such a policy effectively creates a winner-takes-all publishing environment that could drive many legitimate businesses into extinction. The economic investment, employment, and industry-wide consequences of such a policy are very humongous and appear not to have been adequately considered by the Federal Ministry of Education. While there are many other things that you listed, I think for me, reading this, I think that this is the most prominent of the issues, because here you're also talking about the survival of some of your members.
Yes, that is one of them. Making reference to my press conference, there are some other issues that were actually mentioned. When you talk of ranking, there has always been assessment made by NRDC. When any curriculum, any book is developed, it is sent back to NRDC for assessment to ensure compliance with the contents of the curriculum. And if there are gaps, NRDC will observe these gaps, indicate where the publisher has to go and make the corrections to be able to meet the standard. That has always been the tradition. But a situation whereby you are now introducing, benchmark of ranking, I mean, you are turning it into a serious competition, and a situation that makes it only affordable for the highest bidders. If you go through my press conference, you realize that I made an analysis that anybody that wants to go for assessment and ranking and is desirous of producing all the books against all the 88 subjects we have is going to spend over almost 134 million naira. That is a design for the highest bidder. I mean, publishers are struggling. Where did you expect them to get that kind of money? And you're still talking of affordable books. How will books be affordable when a large chunk of that money has gone into the preliminary areas of assessment and ranking? When you talk of ranking, there's no way you will not introduce, I mean, bias will not be entirely excluded. Because we are talking of rank, I mean, just let me put it this way. We have about 92,000 private schools in Nigeria. Then you now call and say, look, out of these 92,000 private schools, that we only need about 10,000. And for anybody that will meet that benchmark, you have to bring in 5 million naira to be able to assess to be part of that 10,000. What are we talking about? You are already commercializing it. You are already making it very difficult. You don't do that kind of a thing in a country of almost 60 million student population. 60 million student population. Okay. So that is the issue we are talking about. There's bound to be external influence. There's bound to be bias. The policy, on its own doesn't look workable in the Nigerian system, at least for now.
Yeah, Mr. Dauda, I do not know what exactly is obtainable now. I mean, it was a long time that I was in primary or secondary school. But we do know that even in that time, that, across the country, today, if you say CD is a girl or CD does her hair, there are certain passages in, say, English textbooks that people in my generation, all commonly use. But it doesn't appear that that is the case today. Do you think that somehow we have sacrificed standards on the altar of, oh, let us just make something for everybody because there's so many people? And at the end of the day, so many people are not getting the sort of education, the minimal education that at least they should get.
Well, I want to say no to that. No, we still, whatever we write as publishers, we have a guide. That is the contents of the curriculum that was developed by government. And when I say government, I'm talking of NRDC. The standard has been set through the curriculum. So any book that gets itself into the school must have met that contents or the standard set by the curriculum. If for any reason there's any book that is found to be far below that, it is for the government to enforce, the compliance. Any book that doesn't meet that compliance, standard should be removed from the school project. It should be removed from the school system. So I think it has to do with enforcement. I mean, whatever we are talking about, people still read our books. sit for WAEC pass, sit for JAM pass. What are we talking about? So I don't understand, the same thing we are using then, in those days, it's the same thing we are using now. The standard has improved over the time. And it is the same NRDC that continue to improve the curriculum to accommodate new developments, to accommodate what is evolving in the education sector. So that is the way it works, and we have always complied with that. So it has nothing to do with maybe just making food available for everybody or making business available to everybody at the expense of standards. No, the standards are still being met. Anyone that doesn't meet the standard, let them enforce it and remove such from the system. Rather than saying out of almost 200 or more educational books publishers in Nigeria, we are now talking of, okay, and picking through the so-called ranking system, about 10 or 7 publishers to take care of the school needs or book needs of almost 60 million students. I mean, that is far from reality. Far from reality.
Mr. Dauda,
yeah.
Mr. Dauda, for the Ministry of Education, well, this could be exactly what you're doing. You said in your statement here that you do not have any problems. You support genuine reforms that are aimed at improving the quality and standard of education in Nigeria. Somebody say this new policy is a way of creating a standard that brings the best to the Nigerian students. And I'm listening to a lot of the things that you're saying. You're asking them to reconsider the policy. And you're saying that what you're upset about is a borrowed policy framework that does not reflect Nigeria's realities and that threatens competition, innovation, access, affordability, constitutional principle, and the sustainability of the publishing industry. So it does sound in many ways like you're looking at the industry and the success of that interest in industry, while the Ministry of Education is looking at the standard of books that we're giving our children in schools. How do you want to be able to manage this balance? Because while you're talking about your members and how, we cannot, how many people are going to throw out of the market, there's the fact that standardization is actually the purview of the Federal Ministry of Education.
Sorry, you see, when you talk of standard, let me put it this way. The education project in Nigeria, requires the involvement of so many people. The Education Ministry, which is the policy maker, we have the other stakeholders, publishers, authors, booksellers, so many other people in the education ecosystem. So when we are talking of publishers, that is just one partner. I can tell you that it's as if other stakeholders do not understand what is into this particular policy, that it is only publishers that appear to be crying foul now. No, you see, others probably do not understand it. But we have taken the lead. And I believe over time, in the next few days, I believe others will start to see listen why they should talk, they should speak out to. What we are talking about has nothing entirely with publishers alone. We are talking of the future of our children. We are equally parents. We are not just business people. We make a lot of sacrifice in our contribution towards education in Nigeria. Whatever curriculum that is produced, it cannot be taught in the classrooms until books are developed out of that curriculum. Who developed these books? The publishers. So don't see us as just business people. No, we are principal stakeholders. So when we are crying foul, they should listen and listen to what we are saying, whether there's any sense in what we are saying. We are not just talking from the point of view of our own business. No, we are talking from the point of view of the generality of the Nigerian people, of the future of our children. So we are talking of, okay, how do we ensure that our educational standard is improved? Yeah, we said we don't have any issues with any improvement or reform that improves standard. Whatever is on ground, the assessment process that is on ground, if there's any issue with that, let's sit down. What is wrong with this? Let's strengthen it and improve upon that. But when you introduce ranking and you introduce cost for the ranking, they are not compatible. It's counterproductive. It's going to lead to subjectivity. It's going to lead to bias, and it's going to lead to what we said, winner takes all kind of a thing. And when you look at the total cost implication, that is just one aspect. When you look at the total cost implication, it is very, very, humongous, very high. Apart from that, we mentioned
quickly,
this.
Mr. Dauda, if you can do this in 30 seconds. You have since released this press statement, and you are now on television. Has there been any reaction by the Ministry of Education or the NERDC to some of the things that you have now said in your press release?
Well, so far we haven't had anything. We have not received anything from them. We believe that, you know, the engagement we had with them was more or less a kind of deceit, because after the engagement, nothing was done. They still went ahead with whatever they wanted to do. So it was like a kind of political propaganda just to show that they've engaged with stakeholders and publishers in particular. So we didn't count that one as engagement, because we put in a lot of input during the engagement process. And they gave us assurance that, okay, they will look into this. Nothing was looked into. So we are talking about, you know, the education improvement in Nigeria. There's going to be scarcity of books. It's not, I mean, there's no way 10 or 7 people can supply the educational needs, the book needs of children in Nigeria. Even now that we are more, we have not been able to, achieve that. How much more? When there are some unpicked, we will call unpicked, because the process for the ranking is still very much shrouded in secrecy. Nobody knows. And when you are asking people to come and pay for ranking, it's just like when you are asking private university or private schools in Nigeria to come and pay, you know, for you to rank. When you now rank, are you now saying that, you know, people should now choose from one university or one secondary school to the other to go, because some have been ranked out of this standard, and they are no longer useful for the education of the country. So that's what we are talking about. When you say ranking and you unpick about 7 or 10 people, there's no way they can meet the education standard, I mean, the book needs of the country, no doubt. So there's going to be scarcity.
Well, Mr. Dauda.
Yes.
We really do hope that the Ministry of Education will get some response from them and the NERDC on why they've taken these steps, and perhaps their justification in their engagement with you, and why they're going ahead in spite of some of the objections that we have raised, you have raised. But we're hoping that the best outcomes for Nigerian students and our educational sector will be something that we all are able to achieve at the end of the day. We have to thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. Mr. Lukman Dauda is the president of the Nigeria Publishers Association. Thank you so much once more.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. Have a wonderful day.
Well, that's what... Indeed, we wish you the same. Well, that's where we draw the curtains on today's program. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Kayla Megwa. Business Morning is at the top of the hour. Have a great day ahead.